Thank you all for coming. We live in an increasingly dangerous time. Things that were once taken for granted, now we must fight to protect. Things that were once considered harmless are now considered threats. Things that were once common sense need to be spelled out. When I first ran for office, I never thought I would be here today introducing legislation to explain the difference between a joke and a terror threat. I never thought our society was so fragile that someone's life could be ruined for telling a joke among friends. But we are here in a new age, an age of outrage, of fear and loathing. And thanks to the internet, everything we say is now on record and out there for the whole world to see. Even still, what has happened to my constituent, Lucas Gerhard, I never would have thought possible. Lucas Gerhard was a student at Lake Superior State University. He was known for expressing his political opinions. This is his First Amendment right of the Constitution of the United States, as well as Article 1, Section 5 of the Michigan Constitution. Lucas Gerhard lawfully purchased a rifle, as is his right under the Second Amendment of the Constitution of the United States, as well as Article 1, Section 6 of the Michigan Constitution. And finally, Lucas Gerhard posted a photo of his rifle to a group of friends on Snapchat. He captioned the photo, quote, "Taking this bad boy up. This ought to make some snowflakes melt, eh? And I mean snowflakes as in snow." Now let us be clear. If you are a normal, intelligent person, you know exactly what this means. Snowflake is a term for one who is easily offended. The comparison is based on fragility. A snowflake melts to the touch. It means people who are quick to anger, quick to accuse, quick to fear and loathing. And indeed, the photo did make a snowflake melt, as it were. Not 15 minutes after posting the photo, a friend of Lucas warned him that what he said might be misinterpreted. And so Lucas immediately posted a follow-up. That was not a threat. To be clear, in his original post, Lucas said, "This would make snowflakes melt. And I mean snowflakes as in snow." In other words, do not take this metaphorically. I mean literally. Snowflakes will melt on the hot barrel. And even if it was taken metaphorically, anyway, despite his explicit and unambiguous statement that it should not, it is still protected speech to say, "This will upset people," which of course is exactly what he was saying. And again, immediately after, he explicitly stated that what he said was not to be taken as a threat. What should have happened next is nothing. Nothing should have happened. No threat was made. A man lawfully purchased a rifle, shared a photo, and joked about how it would offend the easily offended. Yet what happened next was a comedy of errors in which every person responsible failed to use common sense and instead of dismissing the incident, decided to escalate it. I will let Lucas's father, U.S. Marine Corps Colonel Mark Gerhard, explain exactly what happened, but for now, let me give you the basics. Lucas was arrested and charged with making a terrorist threat, which is a 20-year felony. He spent the next 83 days in jail, denied bond. He's been under house arrest to this day, denied access to the internet, which is cruel to anybody under 30. He still faces trial. It's a travesty that the county prosecutor charged him with any crime for something that is clearly and undeniably protected speech under the First Amendment. It is a travesty that the judge imprisoned Lucas for 83 days of his life, despite the obvious fact that no crime whatsoever had been committed. There was no victim, and Lucas' criminal record was non-existent. The case should have been thrown out months ago. For exercising his constitutional rights, Lucas Gerhard's life was ruined. He was majoring in criminal justice and studying to become a police officer one day. Even though he almost certainly will not be found guilty, his arrest will haunt him the rest of his life. The damage is irreparable. There is so much to this story, probably more than we could even get through in one news conference. This case sits as the nexus of First Amendment rights, Second Amendment rights, campus culture, cancel culture, privacy, due process of law, and the weaponizing of the criminal justice system. So let me just say, this bill I introduced today to clarify the definition of a terrorist threat is really just the beginning. This case is not one in isolation, but one of the most egregious I've seen. But it took so many failures for things to get to this point. Today, I'm introducing legislation that simply spells out what a statement must contain to be considered a terror threat. There are 3 elements. First, the statement has to be a true threat. It must actually state that someone or some real property is under threat of violence. Second, the statement has to be a true threat coming from the speaker or an agent of the speaker, not an unrelated third party. In other words, if I was to say that they're going to murder President Trump if he wins re-election, that can't be a threat, because they is some unspecified third party. If someone said, I'm going to murder President Trump if he wins re-election, that clearly is a terrorist threat. So you have to clarify a threat is when the speaker himself or herself says he or she will be carrying out the violence. And third, there has to be a reasonable listener standard, because that is a huge failing here. Any normal, intelligent person understands exactly what Lucas meant. And I suspect the people that escalated this incident knew it themselves. But ultimately, the buck stops with the prosecutor. It was his or her choice to destroy Lucas's life, and his or her responsibility to understand the law and the facts. So today, I'm introducing legislation to clarify what the courts have already said needs to be presented to constitute a true threat. This is to address the most egregious and fundamentally terrible fact about this case. The county prosecutor is pursuing charges against what is obviously protected speech, because we apparently need to spell out what makes something a threat. We can't rely on common sense anymore. This disturbs me deeply. More and more our society is turning away common sense, and now today I'm introducing a bill because common sense has gone away. And now we need to spell out the definition of a threat. Not for laymen like me, but for lawyers and judges. That is a terrifying thought. And I hope people are noticing who and what is driving the effort to make it dangerous to speak freely. I'm a politician. I signed up to be publicly attacked, and I'm fine with that. But Lucas Gerhard was a student with every expectation that the university he was undoubtedly paying a huge amount of money to attend, was going to treat him honorably, help him succeed in defending his rights, and stand up for free speech for all by supporting him when his rights were attacked. But no, the total opposite happened. The university did nothing to defend Lucas, and that could be a symptom of something that this first bill doesn't even address. Because today, we're just talking about trying to make it harder to justify prosecutorial abuse. There may be much more to this story. This is the first, but probably not the last bill that will be introduced as we learn more about what is happening on our taxpayer-funded college campuses. So with that, I'd like to introduce Lucas's father, Colonel Mark Gerhard,